Hello everybody, welcome to Bitcoin Not Crypto. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why you maybe shouldn't tell your friends to buy Bitcoin and the complications that happen when you do. Bitcoin is something that is unlike a lot of other assets out there. It's extremely volatile in the short term. If you measure it maybe by its 50-day moving average, that irons out a lot of the volatility, but from day to day, people cannot handle the volatility, especially if they are emotional when it comes to money, or their position size is large and they that money means a lot to them, right? Like if you're a millionaire, you throw $1,000 into Bitcoin, you're probably just going to forget about it. You're probably never going to look at it. If that is your entire savings and you throw it into Bitcoin, you're going to pay a lot of close attention to it. And then there's the spectrum in between that. And what happens when you're the one that tells somebody to buy Bitcoin is part of the responsibility or part of the basically the future of that asset is tied to you through that person. You're, in their eyes, going to be responsible for their choice, even though, of course, they're going to be an adult who can make their own decisions. But this is kind of why I tell people to study Bitcoin. I don't encourage people, especially people that I know around me, to buy Bitcoin, even though I really want to. Because the thing about Bitcoin is once you've understood it, once you build conviction around it, you want to tell the people you care the most about it. You want to convince them to buy it because you actually care about them. And you've realized, if you've studied Bitcoin long enough, that the money these people currently hold that are close to you, that are special to you, is broken and they're in a losing system, and you would love it for them to win. And so it's, if you really want to tell somebody about Bitcoin, that means you care about that person. If you kind of know somebody and you're like, whatever, I don't care if they buy Bitcoin, it's probably because you don't really care that much about them. So it's this kind of conflicting thing where it's like the people you care the most about, you tell about this, but it might complicate the relationship a little bit if you do convince them to buy Bitcoin. There's a lot of things that somebody should know before they actually own Bitcoin. They should know what Bitcoin is to some degree. They should know how to self-custody it if that's the option they want to go, which I believe is the best option. They should know their time horizon. Is this a short-term thing where is the person a trader where they can handle the volatility? Or are they somebody who is close to retirement and maybe they need to pull those funds out and that volatility will go against them potentially? Or is this somebody who is young and can handle a long-term hold? They need to understand Bitcoin because if they buy it because of your guidance, and they sell it when they're down on the position, then they're going to blame you. Whether they do that outwardly or not, it could create a wedge between your relationship, and that really isn't worth it. So evaluate who the people are that you're telling about Bitcoin, and I tend to use my words carefully when I do start talking to somebody that I care about, somebody in my life directly about Bitcoin. I tell them to study it. I've had lots of people ask me directly, should I be buying right now? And I say, you should have probably been buying when I first told you about it, because obviously it's gone way up since then. But you should probably start studying it so you don't have to ask that question. You should start studying it so that you can build conviction, so that if you do buy it, you will hold it long term and you will not worry about drawdowns because Japan decided not to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve and Bitcoin goes down 4,000 in a day. Like, you should realize in the long term that that's inconsequential, right? Like, of course, it would be great news if that happened, but that's only great news in the short term, because long term, it's inevitable that these nation states are going to have to adopt Bitcoin because of the game theory, because one nation will, and one nation already has, El Salvador, and has seen so much gain from that these other nations are just playing catch up, and the ones that decide not to are going to have to even play catch up even harder. So what we see at a nation state level with game theory, we can distill down to the individual, of course, as well. And this all comes back to, should we buy Bitcoin? Should we tell people to buy Bitcoin? And I think that ultimately, part of the selfishness of wanting to tell somebody about to buy Bitcoin is not because you think that their purchase is going to drive the number up and therefore drive your stack up, but it's because you don't want to be alone in this. You want people to understand Bitcoin. I know that's how it's been for me. When I've told people about Bitcoin and started to explain sort of the fiat monetary system and what Bitcoin is and all of these kind of things, I do that because I want to have conversations with that person that are interesting. And to me, Bitcoin is incredibly interesting. And it can feel a little bit lonely when you are focused so much on something like this. I know this is, personal for me. I'm out there in the world. I'm having small talk with people. I've taken up rock climbing, and it's not like I can immediately just go, "Hey, do you know who Satoshi is? Hey, this is a Bitcoin thing. Do you like Bitcoin?" It's like, no, we're talking about, whatever, whatever else. And maybe eventually that conversation can happen, but it's only really like finance and monetary systems, all this kind of stuff. It's a niche interest. So there's a selfish part of wanting to tell people about it because you want people to have a conversation with you about this because it's something you find interesting. So, I think within that, you can have that conversation, but it doesn't have to include, hey, you need to own this thing. You need to buy some of this. You need to allocate a certain percentage of your net worth into this. You need to think about not buying a rental property and buying a digital property instead. And the best digital property is the one with the biggest network, with the most money in it, and is the most decentralized, which allows for, no one to actually control it, which is so important. People do not realize that. The people that are talking about XRP in the comment sections or any of these other coins, it's like, if they can be censored, then they will be censored. That's like basically the law of the way the world works. If something can be controlled, it will eventually be controlled, and that could be devastating for you. So Bitcoin is the hardest thing to control, which means it's the most secure in that extremely fundamental way, which means it's the most valuable. It can be that simple. But it can be so much more complex, and that's why having these conversations is so much fun. That's why orange pilling people can be fun. I would just, once again, just have a word of caution for anybody out there that just says, hey, you should buy Bitcoin. Have you seen the price of it? It's gone up like crazy, 100, 200%, whatever this year. It's going nuts, right? You got to get on this train, right? Well, if it's, the momentum is up, the momentum is down, this thing's crazy volatile, and you do not want to be responsible for other people's emotional response to volatility within the market. Now, if you do want to buy some Bitcoin, and if you want to direct somebody to buy some Bitcoin, there's a link in the description. Once again, they should just study it, of course, before they buy it. And that goes for you as well. But if you are in that position where you're ready to buy some and you want to do it with the lowest spreads, which means buying the most Bitcoin for your dollars, you can do so through the self-custodial platform, which is Bitcoin Well. Link in the description. It's a referral code, so I get a little bit of a kickback, goes to support this channel and videos like this. And you get some free bonus points for signing up, which can be redeemed for sats. And actually, there's a QR code popping up right now, and you can scan that with your Lightning wallet address. And if you use my code, you'll get one of these as well, which is free Bitcoin. Nothing beats free Bitcoin. They have non-KYC options available for Canadians. They're available in Canada and the US, and they're just an all-around great platform, in my opinion. And that's where I buy all of my Bitcoin. But first, I tell people to study Bitcoin, and I send them some resources to do so. And maybe this would be a resource, or maybe there's some other resources on my channel. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Bitcoin Not Crypto.